Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Hope you're doing really well. Today I'm going to be going over 10 different fragrances that you could potentially wear as a signature scent. In case you're unaware of what a signature scent is, that's basically what people would know you for. That would be your go-to fragrance. If somebody smells it, they would be like, hey, that smells like that dude that wears signature scents. Yeah, you get the idea. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Now before I get started, I want to let you guys know that realistically anything could be a signature scent. It doesn't have to fall into a specific category. If you really like something and you wear it all the time, there's your signature scent right there. So with that out of the way, let's get this started with Dior Homme and also Dior Homme 2020. So this is the Dior Homme that so many people know and love, including me. And this one is probably going the way of the dinosaur, which is to say, extinct. It has iris, cacao, leather, and vetiver. This fragrance smells fantastic. It does have a little bit of that makeup vibe with the iris. A lot of people will say that. A lipsticky vibe, a makeup-y vibe. You get the idea. This stuff is amazing. I love the way it smells. It does have a similarity to Dior Homme Intense, but this one is more wearable because, get this, it's not as intense. What? Dior Homme Eau was also extremely versatile, and I would have featured that one here, but Dior Homme Eau is getting a lot harder to find since it's been discontinued. Then we have Dior Homme 2020, and this one, not as universally loved, we'll say, by people in the fragrance community. But if you're talking about just your average everyday person, most of them are probably gonna prefer this one to the original Dior Homme. This one has Isoi Super, Cashmere, Vetiver, Pink Pepper, and Bergamot as some of the notes in the fragrance. This one is a very modern, masculine, woodsy scent. The versatility for this fragrance, through the roof. Year-round, day or night, any situation, anytime, it will work. And that's one of the reasons this is so good as a signature scent. Either way, Dior Homme 2020, can't go wrong. Next up, a fragrance from the house of Creed. You're probably thinking Aventus, but no, not for this video, although that is a really easy signature scent for sure. You may be thinking Green Irish Tweed, but no, it's actually Royal Oud. It's got pink pepper, cedar, sandalwood, and oud as some of the notes in the fragrance. And I know what you may be thinking. Man, you can't wear an oud fragrance as a signature scent. Wrong, you can. And really, this is not very much of an oud fragrance. So while it says Royal Oud, I'm kind of cheating here. This is more fresh, spicy, woody than it is dark and brooding and mysterious and potentially stanky, like you might think from oud. And of all the woody notes in here, I actually pick up cedar more than anything. But with Creed, you know, they don't want to come out and say Royal Cedar. It doesn't have quite the same ring to it. This stuff, also amazing. This is a little bit more refined, sophisticated, grown up than Dior Homme 2020 is, but it has a lot of that usability, that wearability that Dior Homme 2020 does, and that's because it is at its heart, like I said, a fresh, spicy, woodsy scent with maybe a little bit of a dark undertone. Next up, we're gonna go with this one, Bottega Veneta Pour Homme. This one is sometimes hard to find at discounters, and actually you could say that for all of the fragrances that Bottega Veneta has put out to this point. Now, we're not gonna be talking about discontinuation or anything like that. I've read some of the Bottega Veneta fragrances are discontinued, but we're not getting into that here. This one has a little bit more of a throwback vibe to it, and that's because it has pine as one of the main notes in the fragrance, along with Canadian fir. So yes, once again, another woodsy scent. This also has juniper and leather. The leather in here, pretty smooth, well done, not aggressive, not animalic. As I said, this is gonna give you a little bit of a throwback vibe. It might remind you slightly, ever so slightly, of how fragrances were pulled off in the 80s or even the late 70s. But at the same time, it's completely modern. I would say that Bottega Veneta Pour Homme is going to appeal more to guys probably in their 30s and up than younger guys, but it's still very versatile and a great scent. This next one comes with a slight caveat. It's YSL Y Le Parfum. I prefer this one, but if you're looking for just straight up compliments, I think that the Eau de Parfum will do a little bit better for you. That's not to say that Y Le Parfum cannot pull compliments, because it absolutely 100% can. It's just that the Eau de Parfum is a little bit better at grabbing attention because it does have a little bit more of a focus on sweetness. And a lot of times sweetness goes a long way to pulling compliments, at least in my experience. This one has apple, aldehydes, sage, and tonka as some of the notes in the fragrance. And this one takes that Y DNA and ever so slightly matures it, smooths things off a little bit, dials back the sweetness. Now that's not to say there is no sweetness here, because there absolutely is. It's just not as pronounced, especially when you compare it to something like Y Live or Y Live. No, it's Y Live, but seriously, terrible name. Y Le Parfum, like most fragrances in the Y line, very versatile. Daytime, nighttime, any season, any situation, you can pull it off. And that goes for a number of these scents, actually. Let's go from one blue-ish fragrance to another. Bleu de Chanel, and this is the Eau de Parfum, though realistically, any of them, Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum, Parfum, whatever. Whichever one you like the most. Grapefruit, incense, amber, ginger, and woods are some of the notes in this fragrance. It's Bleu de Chanel. I mean, what more do I need to say here? You have probably smelled a Bleu de Chanel at some point, whether in a store or on somebody else, or because you own one or more Bleu de Chanel fragrances. It's enormously popular. The stuff is everywhere, and for good reason. It's one of the most mass appealing fragrances that's ever been made. This one takes that Bleu de Chanel DNA from the Eau de Toilette and gives it a little more depth, a little more richness, smooths things out a little bit. The usual, you know, when you have a blue fragrance and you've got the original EDT, and they come out with the EDP flanker, that's what this is. It's just the par for the course Eau de Parfum version of a fragrance. Don't have too much more to say about this one. Pretty much everybody knows it. You can use it whenever you want. And hey, compliments, if you're after them, that's another huge compliment puller. With Dior Homme and Dior Homme 2020, I kind of put those together into one selection. The next two fragrances are each from the same house, but I'm not putting them together. First up is one of my absolute favorites, Sultan Vetiver from Nishane. And I just love this scent. Absolutely love it. Any chance I get to bring this up, I do. It's got leather, it has bergamot, and it has multiple forms of vetiver. There's Javanese vetiver, there's Haitian vetiver, there's bourbon vetiver. So what that means is you get all the different aspects of vetiver in this scent. Dry, grassy, earthy, clean, fresh, green, just all of it, all the vetiver. That's what you get here. I just love this stuff. I could just sit here and smell it from the atomizer all day long. It is fantastic. Now, if you don't enjoy vetiver, probably not the best scent for you because, like I said, this is all focused on vetiver. Yes, there are other notes in here that provide different nuances as the fragrance evolves, and that's absolutely needed. But at its heart, this is a celebration of vetiver. This is my favorite fragrance so far from this house. Absolutely adore it. But the next fragrance is the one that I feel more people would wear as far as a signature scent is concerned, and it is Hassabat. Pineapple, grapefruit, oak moss, and woods. This is essentially Nishane's take on Creed Aventus. Yeah, good old Aventus. Like we don't have enough versions of that fragrance already, whether from niche houses or clone houses or designer houses or literally anybody that makes fragrances. This one does stand apart, it does stand on its own, and people love this fragrance. This is a huge compliment puller. It's got great performance. You've got that fruity opening with the pineapple and the citrus. As it dries down, the oak moss is more of a focus in this fragrance as compared to Creed Aventus, where you're gonna get that birch. And then of course, with the birch, there comes the ambergris, the vanilla, these other facets in Aventus, whereas here, more oak moss and some woods. It's a fantastic year-round fragrance. It's an extrait de parfum, so you're gonna get, like I said before, great performance. There's a lot to love about that scent. This next one I had to include. I think it's a fantastic signature scent. Some people would say a little more gentlemanly, a little more grown up, but I think that through the entire line, there's something there for you. Maybe not this one, but in the line, there's something there for you. And it is Terre d'Hermès from Hermès. This is the Eau de Toilette, but there is also the Eau Très Fraîche version. So if you wanted one that strips away some of that earthiness that this has and focused more on the citrus and clean things up, freshen things up, you would go with that one. And then there's also the Eau Intense Vetiver version of this, or even the Pure Parfum version if you want differing takes on the vetiver in here with the citrus and the earthiness that it presents. So this has orange, pepper, vetiver, cedar, and grapefruit as some of the notes in the fragrance. This is one of the best office or formal situation fragrances that has ever been made. And it's also surprisingly really good in date situations or night out situations. Now that little bit of earthiness that this does have, that is gonna turn some people away. They're gonna smell it and go, no, 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 that's not how I like my citrus. And then they're gonna go for something else, like maybe Bleu de Chanel, and that's fine. As long as that earthiness, that flint note that's in here doesn't turn you away, I think you gotta go for it. And if for some reason that does turn you away, you don't like it, it just doesn't work for you, Eau Très Fraîche, like I said. Next up is almost the king of blue fragrances at this point, Rage de Parfum's Elysium, and this is the Parfum Cologne version. This has a whole bunch of notes. It's got citrus, it's got black currant, it's got ambergris, it's got juniper, it's got woody notes, just a whole bunch going on here. This fragrance is basically for guys who want blue fragrance versatility. They want that compliment factor, but at the same time, they want to spend more money and get something more luxurious. So this is almost for people who look at Sauvage or Y or Bleu de Chanel wearers and they see them having great reactions and they go, I want great reactions, but I want exclusivity. So then Rage de Parfum said, hey, look what I made. You want to check this out? You should check this out. This right here, check it out. And then those guys smelled it and went, I'll take it. I'll take your entire stock. Now I'm not busting on Elysium. This stuff smells fantastic. I love it. But absolutely this scent falls into that dumb reach category, which basically is just to say you're going out somewhere and you haven't put any thought into what you're wearing. Doesn't matter where you're going, you can grab this, spray it on, and it'll work. So Elysium, that's gonna give you the versatility, the compliment factor, the wearability, the mass appeal of a blue fragrance, just with a higher quality and a higher price tag too. All right, we are at the final selection for this video. This one is a little bit different, a little bit off the beaten path for most guys. It's Cartier Declaration d'un Soir. This has sandalwood, pepper, cardamom, and rose. Rose being the main note here, the main thing you're gonna pick up, the main thing you're gonna remember from the scent. Now, a lot of guys out there, when they see rose in a men's fragrance, they just go, ha ha ha, no thank you. Why would I wear that? That's for the ladies. And I get that. A lot of guys kind of have in their head, you know, bouquet of roses, that's for girls. And you smell a rose and you're like, ugh, that's a nice perfume smell for a lady. There are lots of guys' fragrances out there that utilize rose prominently that smell fan-freaking-tastic. And this is one of them. I guarantee you, this is gonna be different than what most anybody is wearing around you at all times. Yes, in the fragrance community, this fragrance is pretty well known, but outside of it, not many guys are wearing this. The rose here is fresh, doesn't come across too powdery, doesn't come across overly jammy or like potpourri or anything like that. It is a killer scent that has a grown-up kind of vibe to it. It's got a touch of sophistication, but at the same time, younger guys can still pull it off. You won't end up smelling like your grandpa or anything like that. It's got a nice woodiness in the base, and the spice provides a bit of a counterbalance to that rose. So we're gonna use this one to wrap up this list. I feel like this is a fantastic choice for a signature scent that will absolutely set you apart and at the same time has great mass appeal. All right guys, that's gonna do it for me. Let me know in the comments below if you have a signature scent, what it is. So a lot of guys don't have a signature scent, and I understand that completely. Kind of just change depending on your mood, depending on the day. Other guys feel, you know, locked in to a certain fragrance, like it speaks to them on a spiritual level. So yeah, just let me know in the comments what your signature scent is, if you have one. All right guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.